Hello. This video is going to be titled, let me think for a moment. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. Now, what I'm going to make this video about is some of the names that are in the ancient Hebrew scriptures. Now, I do believe that there's a lot that has been missed because of the translations, but I'm not going to leave it that simply stated. Now, the original texts were written in Hebrew. There is no doubt that that is true. And there's a gentleman out there by the name of Jeff Benner, B-E-N-N-E-R, and he has a YouTube channel, and he has what's called the Ancient Hebrew Research Center, and he's put out many books about the ancient Hebrew writings, and he also is putting together books that are called the Mechanical Translations of the Scriptures, and available online is a free copy of Genesis. He does charge for other books, but he does give the Genesis one, if you are willing to use a electronic download. He gives that for free, and his other electronic downloads are very reasonably priced. He also sells them in book form, which some people might find to be a little on the expensive side, but if you do your research and see what it costs to have these books made, Mr. Benner still is only making about $5 on each one of his books, and he's passing on the savings of not having them printed onto the people who purchase them in an electronic form. So anyhow, what I'd like to continue on with is, in ancient Hebrew, when a name was spelled out, the spelling showed the character of the individual or the entity, whatever the name is in correspondence to. Now, what you have to realize is, in ancient Hebrew, the Paleo-Hebrew, they use what was called pictographs. And in a pictograph, it is a picture. And the picture tells a story. Now, it gets more complex as things go on, because a person takes a picture and looks at that picture and says, well, what are the characters of that picture? And they develop their own diction and meanings of the full words. And in Mr. Benner's writings, he also shows that. For instance, I got the free copy of the book of Genesis, and I started going through it, and he puts in parentheses the Hebrew meaning of the time, the diction meaning of the names right next to them, which is very helpful, and it reveals things to us. I decided to take it one step further. And what I did was, I took the Hebrew writing and took each individual letter and took one of the symbolic meanings and put them together. And this is what I came up with. Now, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but many people refer to God as Yahweh, because when Moses came down from the burning bush and presented a name to his people, it was spelled Y-H-W-H. Naturality, it wasn't Y-H-W-H. It was Yod-He-Wah-He. And those were the letters, the Hebrew letters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read down this list of what I put together here. And I'm going to start off with the name. And then I'm going to put the letters on the ones that I know exactly what they are. And then the ones that I believe I know what they are, I'll use those. And we'll see what we come up with the symbolic meaning. Because as the title of this video is, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. These names are words. And I do believe that these names are what was saved, and Moses picked up on them and picked up the character of the names and was able to embellish his story, I would say. That he was able to take this name character and just embellish and elaborate from that and add into the story. You be the judge of it. I found this very intriguing, and I'm going to continue on and go further throughout the Bible with these interpretations of these names, because I do believe that this is going to show people something that has been lost for thousands of years. So here I go again. What people refer to as Yahweh, YHWH, equals Yud, He, Wah, He. In symbolic translation, to make, to reveal, and to reveal. I find that that is extremely on point. I'll continue on. I'll try to leave out my opinion part. I mean, the opinion is that I added the symbolism that I thought was appropriate, because each one of these letters or individual words that are within a name has their own symbolic meaning, but it's not just a single meaning. There's several meanings within that one word. So it's a very rich language. So I'll continue on. Elohim, Aleph, Lamed, He, Yud, Mem. First tongue to reveal work, overpower chaos. Adonai, Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yod. First to enter life work. Shaddai, Shin, Dalet, Yud. Destroy, pathway, to make. El, which is E-L, which people have traditionally used as meaning God. El, or Ale, that's actually the way that it was originally pronounced in Canaan. Aleph, Lamed, means first tongue. Elyon, E-L-Y-O-N, equals Aleph, Lamed, Yud, Ayin, Nun, which means first tongue to make, see, life. Eden, the name of the woman in the Garden of Eden. Now that's a more modern name, because as I found out, no, I'm sorry, I made a mistake on who I was speaking about that one. Anyhow, I was going to speak about Eve and the more modern name that Eve was. But anyhow, Eden, Ayin, Dalet, Wah, experience, pathway, hook. Now the meaning that Mr. Benner gives in his mechanical translation for Eden, I believe, was the word pleasure. Now, I think people should be careful on what it is that they start thinking of, that the Garden of Eden was the pleasure garden, or the garden of pleasure. Adam, Aleph, Dalet, Aleph, Mem. First to enter strength, overpower chaos. Eve, Aleph, Wah, Aleph, means first hook leader. Now we do know that Eve hooked Adam into doing something he was not supposed to be doing. Excuse me. Now Eve had a title in the original Hebrew text, and this title was Hiwa'a, or Hewa'a. I don't really know the proper pronunciation of that. But what I believe and what I seem to have found was the proper letters were He, Wa, Aleph. And that translated as the hook leader, which it seemed very appropriate to me that, you know, Eve's name translation was the first hook leader, and it clearly states that Eve's title was Hawa, the hook leader. And things were becoming clear that, you know, I'm on to something here. I'm on to something with these symbolic translations. So I went on to the name Cain. Now, Cain's name was not in the Bible as Cain, but I translated Cain because the Hebrew letter chart that I have, it also has the letter sound. It has a column for the letter sound. So I first took the name Cain. So I took Cain and I came up with Tazadi, Aleph, Yud, Nun, which meant desire first to make life. I thought, wow, no doubt, Cain was a gardener. He was a farmer. He worked with vegetables, with crops. So then I took the name that the text actually had for Cain, and it was Hevel. Now that, again, may not be the proper pronunciation, but it's spelled Hevel. And that equals He, Kaf, Lamed. And that symbolically translates into the cover tongue. Now I felt that very appropriate because what I had already come to the conclusion was that that's what Cain's problem was. In the whole scenario of Cain and Abel, and Cain bringing his produce, his crops, to the Lord as an offering, that he wasn't looked on as favor, but he did not speak up. He did not speak up. He assumed much. He assumed much. I would say he assumed too much, because as we see, the story ended in tragedy. So I believe that is spot on. Cain was Hevel, which was the cover tongue. He kept his mouth shut, and look at the trouble that happened. Evil reared its head. That's what happened. Evil reared its head. So then I moved on to Abel. And Abel wasn't his actual name either, but I did the translation of Abel same as I did Cain. And Abel came out to be Aleph, Bet, Lamed, Aleph. First household and tongue strength. Now I do believe it's fair to assume that Abel did speak to the Lord. He did have strength and tongue. He did speak to the Lord, and the Lord told him what he would have found in favor for an offering. And the offering was actually more than one thing. The offering, I'm thinking, because I just, it's the first time I read it, and I read it last night. And the offering was the first females of his of his stock, of his animals. It didn't precisely say what animals. I don't believe it said precisely what animals, whether it was sheep or cattle, or what it actually was. But it was the first females was an offering, and of the fat of the animals. So there was live animals and dead animals. Now, what I had always got out of what people had translated in the Bible was that this was all about killing. But Abel brought life to the Lord and brought food to the Lord. As we see, meat is food and fat is food. Fat gives, well, it gives what nothing else can give. People really need animal fat in their diet. But anyhow, moving on. Abel's actual name was Cain, Qayin, and I came up with Kaf, Yod, Wah, and that translated in the last to make hook, which I find that's pretty interesting. What is this hook? I'm thinking there's additional meaning to hook. I think we're going to find further meaning. seeing as Abel was the last one to make hook. Anyhow, Cain, or Evil, or Hevel, whatever you want to call it, was sent to the land of Nod, or Nod, N-O-D, which comes up to Nun, Wa, Dalet, and that came up to Life, Hook, Pathway. Does hook mean to make a turn? Could very well be, because what happened with Cain? He certainly made a turn, and then he was sent off to the land of the Life, Hook, Pathway. Well, I do believe the land of Nod turned out and became the land of Canaan. I'll have to check that as time goes on, because this is a work in progress. Mr. Jeff Benner is a work in progress with the mechanical translations, which is just unbelievably helpful and useful, and people are going to learn a lot. I don't expect people to follow what I'm doing and ignore God in themselves. We'll say that, God within themselves. I'm not trying to portray myself as anybody special or that I have any special truth going on. So I just wanted to show people the system that I was using in order to translate the names, and that I do believe that I'm on the right track, that the name translations are with the letters and the symbolic meanings and not the literal meanings and not the old diction meanings. Thank you for watching my video. God bless you.